Good morning, everyone. It is wonderful to see people checking in and making connections. And I'd just like to ask for the small screen to be live so that I can see the wonderful people that are on Zoom. That's great. Because however we come to this place, whether we have been a part of Richmond Hill United Church for decades and decades, maybe this is our first or second or third time here. Maybe you're still a bit of a newbie like me, haven't quite been here a year. However you come to this place, welcome. Oh, great. I can see smiling faces and little boxes. Yay! That's fantastic. So there's lots of things going on at Richmond Hill United Church, and I'd just like to share a couple of them and make a reminder that if you go onto the website, you'll see more of the events that are happening. Click on News or Events, and you'll see a whole list. We are going to make Sunday coffee time a fixture again. Yay, I know, isn't that great? That is absolutely wonderful. I know that you had a splendid time last week. Donna was telling me all about that. So after the service, if you go into Centennial Hall, there won't be coffee, but there will be a sign-up sheet. It is on the church news board. I know, it's delicious. Well, at least it's bright. It's got pink and green around it. And we are hoping to serve coffee twice a month. So if you feel called to this ministry, because it is a ministry of hospitality and welcome, then please sign up. We're thinking teams of 2, all right? You feel that there's 3 friends that want to do it together, you go for it. All right. And in the same kind of vein about reconnecting, about how we are becoming and being a part of belonging to this community, that's something that doesn't just happen, it needs to be nurtured. So on Thursday morning, there is going to be a drop-in. It starts this Thursday, January the 19th at 10:30. It's an opportunity for you to connect with the staff and with each other. So if you are available at that time, then drop on by and we would love to see you. And I am so grateful that we have our technical aspects of this worship service working so smoothly. And that is huge thanks to Gord and Howie and Brandon that have been troubleshooting for this. We seem to be in a good place. I know that is a daring thing to say, isn't it, out loud? So it is great that I can invite Carolyn to share news of another group that is a part of the ministry at Richmond Hill.
Okay, hello everyone. Thank you, Karen. Oh, well, guess what's going on tonight? That's right, it's God in Daily Life, a safe and inclusive space to consider what an experience of God in the day-to-day might look like. Don't worry, you can bring your doubts, questions, and beliefs, your nerves and hesitations, names for God that resonate with you, and you can come and talk about significant moments in Sunday worship. It's not too late to sign up. If you have any questions or if you want the Zoom link, please email me at n, last letter of my first name, carolyn.260@gmail.com. And my email address is also in the events section that Karen was just talking about on the website under God in Daily Life. So hope to see you there. Thanks so much, and please enjoy the service.
So let us continue our time of centering in this worship service, and Barry is going to help us with that with some centering music. That was Prelude in B-flat minor by Bach. And we began our worship service with the chimes, and I'd like to thank Nadine for playing the chimes for the first time and being mentored by Kathleen. That was wonderful. Thank you. Let us light our community candles. The candle of reconciliation. Lighting a path to healing and to mending broken relationships. The candle of our faith in Jesus. Jesus, the radical, who calls us to live love in the world. And the candle of affirmation. The light of which draws the circle wide, lights the world and says that for us, everyone is welcome in this place. And since time immemorial, First Nations people have both a physical and a spiritual connection to the earth, which is based on respect and gratitude. And those of us that are from settler heritage have much to learn from this approach. And the nature of this tie is not one of ownership, but rather one of stewardship and relationship building. And as the earth warms and the waters rise, Indigenous communities in Canada are on the front lines of the climate crisis, from James Bay to Nunavut. May we hear the cries for justice. May we feel the groans of the earth. And in this moment, commit to joining with all creation to work for healing. So I invite you to join me in the call to worship. The communal parts are in bold. You can see that on the screen. Oh God, a-dazzle with wonder, cloaked in nurturing shadow. We bring all that we are into your presence. We lean on you when the journey is tough. We share with you our joy and delight. Pour out your love in cascades of tenderness as we worship together today. And let us continue in prayer. Let us celebrate the one who gives the light to us. Let us open ourselves to the illumination it offers. Let us blaze with its generous fire, never forgetting the darkness from which seeds of new life sprout, where dreams bring forth sacred visions, and we become whole in God's encompassing love. Amen. And let us sing together the hymn, When a Star is Shining. It's Voices United 97. We are in a worship series that is focusing around shadow and light. And I'd like to set a little bit of the context for the ancient story for our scripture today. Light and darkness are common biblical themes, but they often carry with them assumptions. We make the assumption, and some of the writers do also, that light is good and darkness is bad. For example, God creates light and declares that it is good in Genesis. God's countenance shines with the blessing of light in the Psalms. Light is wisdom and darkness is folly. So says a writer from Ecclesiastes. And then we come into Christian scriptures. And our tradition says, or the writer of John says, Jesus is the light of the world for those that follow. And those that don't, they walk in darkness. So given that kind of span of some of the things that are part of our biblical canon, today we are going to dip into the book of Isaiah. And the character of Isaiah, the prophet, is prophesying from a place of distress, from a place of darkness and fearful gloom. And what is it that's going on? What is it that's creating these feelings? Well, the Assyrian army has taken the land of Israel. So that's where the desolation and darkness is coming from. The Assyrians will take some of the people of Israel into captivity. So it is in this bleak time that there is the outward darkness of warmongering, but there is also an inner darkness, which comes from greed, empire building, and turning away from God. But amid that desolation, there is hope. And I am going to invite Bev to come forward, and she's going to continue to share a little bit more about the context of the passages that she will be reading.
Good morning. Today, we are going to explore the theme of light and darkness as found in the book of Isaiah in the Hebrew scriptures. This book took shape over several centuries. It was added to and edited many times by numerous people. It is referred to as a collection of collections. What we know as chapters 5 to 12 are the oldest part of the book, containing prophecies from 740 years before the birth of Jesus. In this section that we first see, it is in this section we see the first images of light and dark, which continues in the final chapters 56 to 66. Let us hear God's promise. The people who walked in the shadows have seen a great light. Those who lived in a land of deep shadows, on them the light has shined. Isaiah 9:2. I will make you a light to the nations of the world, to bring my healing to them too. Isaiah 49:6. Arise, my people, let your light shine for all the nations to see, for the glory of the Lord is streaming from you. Isaiah 60.
The anthem that the choir shares augments and allows us to look at the themes that we are exploring in a different way. And so the words are critically important. And we have heard from you that it is so difficult sometimes to hear words. I am amazed at the beautiful sound that the choir makes through a mask. It is very impressive. So what we are going to try to see if this helps is that many of the lyrics of the anthems are poetry. And what you're going to hear in a minute is a poem by Samuel Longfellow. So I'm going to share those words with you, and then the choir are to sing it. "'Tis winter now. The fallen snow has left the heavens all coldly clear. Through leafless boughs the sharp winds blow, and all the earth lies dread and drear. And yet, God's love is not withdrawn. God's life within the keen air breathes. God's beauty paints the crimson dawn and clothes each branch with glittering wreaths. And though abroad the sharp winds blow and skies are chill and frosts are keen, home closer draws her circle now, and warmer glows her light within. O God, you give the winter's cold as well as the summer's joyous rays. You warmly in your love enfold and keep us through life's wintry days. The way that our brains work We tend to see things in pairs, and they're usually absolute opposites, such as good, bad, right, wrong, soft, hard, and surprise, surprise, light, dark. We know that these are rather simplistic approaches and that the world doesn't neatly fall into these categories. Instead, the world is full of gradations, those areas between the absolutes. And that's the place where most of us live our lives. Yet in the Bible, darkness is often seen as the antithesis to light, with light being the symbol of God's purity, glory, and wisdom. And darkness is often used to symbolize disobedience to God, absolutely the places of injustice. And in typical biblical fashion, the symbolic language is elastic, and we tend to forget that. We tend to forget that these images and metaphors can be shaped and expanded in different ways. So we also get darkness as the place from which God speaks. We get the dark sky that makes the stars visible, including that Bethlehem star. And at times, we in the Christian church have, I think, kind of misappropriated the light and dark imagery. We've chosen to ignore some of those subtleties and variations and different interpretations of that metaphor that has been used within the biblical texts. We focused on light energy being positive and dark imagery negative. Within the United Church, over quite a span of years, the anti-racism policy is trying to address what is called the racialization of those terms, white and black, light and dark. And how on earth did this come about? Well, it began when some leading European philosophers and academics and scientists in what was, I don't know what to call this. Anyway, it's called the Enlightenment period. Anyway, we'll see. You can make your decisions on whether you think it was very enlightened or not. But anyway, it was called the Enlightened period. And what happened during that time is that the positive aspects of light were attributed to Europeans, i.e. white people. And then the negative characteristics of the dark to non-Europeans. And this demeaning way of thinking became widely accepted in the 1700s when German philosopher Immanuel Kant wrote a hierarchy of what he called perfection based on skin color. It is sickening to read. And I pondered long and hard about whether I should talk about this at all today. But I don't believe in putting our heads in the sand. I think we are not going to change unless we face some absolutely awful realities of this world. And I think one of the reasons that I am so loath to talk about this is, yes, I disagree with it profoundly. But more disturbing still is that we are still, in many ways, living this hideous philosophy today. We live it when white supremacists march in the streets of our cities, take over government buildings, trampling on democracy. When most of the positions of power in this world are held by white men. When anti-racist groups such as Black Lives Matter and Idle No More are met with opposition, or perhaps more chillingly are ignored. As our own Vincent Conville says, he is not sitting up in the choir today, but he says there is only one race, the human race. There is no such thing as color-based racial categories, but rather people with different lived experiences from different cultural backgrounds. And I think it's really important to understand this distinction. So that makes us think a little bit differently. It is so sad that we are still shaped by this 17th century philosophy. And once this separation of peoples that is based on cultural background became entrenched in education, in science, in economics, in political polities, in the activities most particularly of colonial conquest, of enslavement. When those things happened and continue to happen, it is virtually impossible to use the terms black, white, light, dark, devoid of a racist agenda. So currently, as the United Church strives to live into its commitment for racial justice of becoming an intercultural church, we are examining our language. We are looking at the ways in which we use our metaphors, including biblical metaphors, and we are seeking ways to find transformation for all people, and I would say all creatures. So let us look anew at this pair of dark and light. And let's see if we can take a little bit more of a holistic approach, because there are negative aspects to light. Light can lead to be blinded by its intensity. Light can make us feel vulnerable and in the spotlight, stripped of protections that we might wrap ourselves in. Light can burn. And of course, dark and shadow has many positive aspects. Darkness is a creative and transformative force. And the natural world shows us that so very clearly. We know that photosynthesis uses sunlight and it's essential to plant growth, but we often forget that most plants need darkness for the seeds to germinate. And if we look at our creative narrative, there are a number of creation stories in Hebrew scriptures, but one of them says, in the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth was formless, void, and darkness covered the face of the deep. And that's where the wind of God began to sweep over the waters. Creation began in darkness. And we too, as humankind, are formed in darkness, in the darkness of the womb. Listen to me, says the prophet Isaiah. God called me before I was born, while I was in my mother's womb. God called me by name. And you might say that when the light dims, when darkness falls, It can be a great equalizer. But it also provides cover, doesn't it, for terrible things to happen. And so it is in recognition of this reality that sometimes in the dark, terrible things happen. And there is a movement that is reclaiming the dark, that is reclaiming the night. It's called Take Back the Night. And it began in the 1970s and it spread around the world. So what is that? It's usually a march or a rally that's organizing communities that want to stand up against violence. They want to reclaim our shared space, particularly in the evening and dark times, as a safe place for every single person. And what about here in the GTA? Well, Take Back the Night has been holding rallies for over 40 years now. And it's interesting that this community-based event protests a whole, or highlights, I should say, a whole slew of pieces. It highlights that women and trans people are very vulnerable when they walk out at night. It is a grassroots movement that lifts up survivors of sexual violence. And it also highlights Aboriginal rights, equal status for women, safe, affordable housing, rights for sex trade workers, safe shelters, healthcare, childcare, education, employment, immigration status, raising of minimum wage. And why? Why are all of those things important? Because when these rights are ignored, or when these rights are only available to a select few, that creates a breeding ground for hate and violence. It is not the darkness that brings forth terrible and bad things. It is when we are not willing to treat each other with respect and dignity. So I believe that it is helpful to bring together the positive aspects of both light and dark imagery. I think this is an important part of our spiritual journey. Elizabeth Smith acknowledges the hymn that she wrote. She acknowledges God in the darkness, God beyond our knowing, patient creator, seed in secret growing. And our hearts are physically nestled in our bodies. But Jan Richardson writes about our hearts as metaphor of being a chapel, a place where the divine can be found in love that illumines every broken thing it finds. So if we bring together the possibility of hallowing shadow and light, we might also find that the silent, icy night may be our heart's compassion. These words were written by Ruth Duck and are part of the next hymn that we are going to sing in a moment. A fellow theologian says that Ruth brings to her hymn writing the full stretch of humanity. I talked about images being elastic. How amazing that her writing encompasses the full stretch of humanity. In her words, my experience of exalted praise and painful chronic disease, of betrayal and abuse, of joy and love are all material for my hymns. All of it, the full stretch of humanity. So we're going to sing that hymn now. It's called When the Wind of Winter Blows, and it is found in More Voices 71. If you're in the sanctuary here, that's the spiral bound hymn book. More Voices 71. I invite the welcome team to get ready to take the offering, and you can start to do that now for those people who are in the sanctuary. And there are many ways in which you are able to support the ministry of Richmond Hill United Church. You do not physically have to be in this place. You can go online, and I was really heartened to see that over $1,000 came in via our website during Christmas. Yeah, I know that is pretty impressive that people are using a variety of ways to support this ministry at Richmond Hill United Church that is so wide and diverse. And I also, as the offering is being taken, please begin to take the offering as I'm talking. I'd just like to say that generous spirit is also a part of our offering, and thank you to those people that have responded. If you haven't yet, if that package is lurking in a pile somewhere, then please unearth it and respond as you are able. I invite Jane Wedlock to come and lead us in the prayers of the people.
Let us pray together. Amazing God of light and shadows, we offer gratitude for all the ways we are gifted in our shared journey as community. These short but lengthening days invite us to go inward, to spend patient time in the darkness, contemplating the many ways that light can emerge and how we are called to live love in the world in new ways. There are many shadows in our lives and in our beautiful earth home, and we may doubt our ability to make the changes that are needed to restore life, to bring hope, and to restore faith. But, Holy One, that light that shines from the Christmas star and the precious babe is not so far away. It burns within each one. May we have the courage to nurture the flame of this light, to restore and heal, to tend our wounded places, to bind that which has come apart, and to invite in those who have been pushed aside. May we be light for others in our deep listening, in our smile of recognition of the holy in each one, in our words of welcome and hospitality, in gestures of kindness, in our willingness to speak loudly for justice to be done, and in the generous sharing of our gifts, however small. In a time of silence, let us honor all who demonstrate love, humanity, and compassion within the brutality of war, who demonstrate dignity in the face of humiliation, and who bravely stand up for truth when confronting power. And now, in silence, we remember those known to us who are struggling, and those who are grieving the loss of loved ones. And we particularly remember the Moon and Edwards family and friends of Mina Edwards, the mother of Anthony Edwards, who passed away on January the 4th. God of light and shadows and abundant love, hear us now as we join together in an adaptation of the prayer Jesus taught us. Father and Mother of the cosmos, focus your light within us. Create your reign of unity now as your desire acts with ours. Grant what we need each day in bread and insight. Loosen the cords of mistakes which bind us as we release the strands we hold of others' guilt. Don't let superficial concerns delude us, but free us from what holds us back. For you is born all creative will, the power of life, the song that beautifies, renewed from age to age. Amen.
We are so fortunate. There are so many songs and pieces of music that beautify. And we are going to sing another hymn that brings that image of light and weaves it into another sense of the Lord's Prayer. So let us sing together, Let There Be Light, which is Voices United 6, 7, 9. And as we go forth into this week, living into a new year, may we take with us the blessing of shadow and light. May we take with us a sense of community so that we can create beloved community for others wherever we are. And let us go into this with hope in our hearts, with brightness in our eyes, with a smile beneath our masks. Let us live life to the full in the light and the shadow. So let us sing our blessing between darkness and light. invite you to be seated as we receive the postlude from Barry.